I have actually never been asked that question before in my life.
Good morning. And with us today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Reverend Demetrius Carolina. And we want to first just start off by asking you to introduce yourself and tell us briefly about the Central Family Life Center and its work.
Well, good morning, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me as a part of this phenomenal opportunity to interview and talk with you. I'm the executive director of the Central Family Life Center. This is one of the largest Black and Brown nonprofits in the borough of Staten Island. We are host to 22 different service providing programs. I'm also the senior pastor at the First Central Baptist Church in Staten Island, a church that is in the heart of Stapleton, where we have a mission of growing, moving, and committed to building God's kingdom through serving people one life at a time.
What has called you to do this work?
Early in my life, I received a calling from God to do the work of helping others, right? I was licensed at the age of 16. So most of my adult life, I've been in service to others as either pastor, educator, now a nonprofit executive, you know, garnering, if you will, the resources to bring people together and to build bridges to bring communities together.
Thank you for sharing that. It's important that we, set the context of, you know, Black churches in America, how they have continued to serve as a space for building community, helping those in need, and organizing around social and political issues. And Central Family Life Center is affiliated with the First Central Baptist Church, which you are the pastor, and provides a lot of these services to learn, connect, heal, and grow in a secular context. Can you tell us more about the importance of maintaining these sorts of spaces?
A large part of what we do is interconnected to the viability of the Stapleton community and the Black community. And when I say Black community, there are multiple
Hmm.
communities of color that we serve and are part of, and that are part of us. We have about, I guess, 27 different ministries at the First Central Church as well, from education, educational driven ministries to senior types of ministries that are interconnected with the Central Family Life Center. Although these are two very distinct and different organizations with different boards and all of that, the Central Family Life Center came out of the First Central Baptist Church.
I want to speak to one of your other greatest successes of the Central Family Life Center, which is the True to Life, the Cure Violence initiative that you organized. And for those who aren't familiar, can you tell me about the philosophy of Cure Violence and what effect the True to Life has had in your community?
It is really, in many ways, an epidemiology driven program. It's data driven. We actually look at the act of violence, and particularly gun violence, as a disease. And this program looks at the root causes of this behavior. And so, needless to say, they are all systemic. If one person who was formerly incarcerated due to some act of violence comes back to that same community and change norms and behaviors. They are called credible messengers because these men and women can speak to a group of potential leaders in a way that maybe others may not because they don't have the same shared or lived experiences. And the two main areas that we serve, Stapleton and Mariners Harbor, who were formerly these populations communities were formerly the most violent prone communities in the borough, now are celebrating 600, 700 days of no shootings and stabbings. So that speaks truth to power. It lets you know that this model really does work. And then we had to build capacity for our nonprofit
Yeah.
because this is another reality. And I know all uh, nonprofit executives can relate to what I'm saying, especially largely Black and Brown nonprofits. Capacity, the ability to do the work, the back office work for this much money, it's this much paperwork and bureaucracy. And so we had to build that. When you get government funding, it comes with a set of restrictions. It comes with a work scope. And doing the kind of work that we do, there's so many needs that aren't in writing that you can't uh, um, plan for. And so having financial support where we can get loans at a zero interest rate or private donations, that we have some unrestrained resources so that we can buy a suit for a young man who's being interviewed for a job, or uh, get a young woman's hair done and nails done, or whatever, a dress, or provide even some soft skill training for young men and women for whom this may be their first viable legal employment. Um, that means a lot.
The fanfare is real. You know, when you have recognized or created or developed a model that has shown success, that has allowed you to work with your community, you know, from a strengths-based approach, you know, using the resources that we have, you know, understanding that there has been historical disinvestment in the Black and Brown community. And I appreciate you sharing about, you know, the larger initiatives and the importance of credible messengers and the importance of lived experience and how that is pivotal to dismantling some of the destructive ideologies that, you know, us as Black folks can take on that are internalized. So I really do appreciate you saying that. And I want to speak more to, you know, the partnerships. And you all partner with numerous organizations from schools to health centers to local business and government agencies. So, can you talk more about the partnerships that have influenced the mission and programs to Central Family Life Center?
No nonprofit exists in it of itself. We are interconnected in so many ways. And in some instances, we overlap one another, which is a good thing. We're dealing with communities that are truly dealing with trauma, right? Historic trauma and recent trauma. So we bring to bear to speak to those real issues, several therapeutic programs. We partner with three different schools where we have mentorship in these schools, where we bring young men and young women in who speak typically to young people who have the greatest challenges in those spaces of education and learning. We partner with the DA's office because in many instances we are dealing with persons who touch the legal system, and we want to build that relationship so that we can advocate on the behalf of young men and women. Any one of our 22 different programs can provide these young people with some alternatives to incarceration, which is key, quite frankly, to building a better and more meaningful existence long term. You know, a little youthful indiscretion for one young person in one community can mean a lifetime of negative marks on a record for someone from our community.
So, as we think about that, you know, what is some advice that you have for the people that want to drive change in your community, considering the challenges that may be unique to Staten Island? You know, what are some barriers that, you know, these leaders or change makers may need to address as they want to drive change?
One of the first things I often say is that a leader who leads and no one follows is someone who's simply taking a walk. In order to be an effective leader, you must understand the people that you serve and bring the resources, the vision, the mission to them in a way that they can receive it. If your vision isn't bigger than your resources, then it's not big enough. So you gotta have a ability to look beyond what you see into what can be. Next, I will say it can't be your baby. It's got to be something that you're willing to give up. I'm planning to see someone else take this much further than I can. It can't be about you. It has to be about something bigger than you. I'm being guided by a force greater than myself to do
Yes.
something bigger than I could ever do in and of myself. So be guided, be willing to be guided by that unseen hand that is bigger than all of us. And we need to be able to speak truth to power wherever we are, right? Next, I mean, you've asked, so I'm going to give you. Next, I would say to you, don't be afraid of the internal challenges in our communities. We face some internal struggles that other communities may not, because we're dealing with populations who don't often have built in or her historic currency to go from one level to the next. Those who are in these communities understand what I'm saying. So, as much as it is possible, tie people into your success so that they too are part of the success. Everybody that comes to the party with you may not leave with you. And while that's a challenge, it certainly is for me, it's a reality. I've seen some great leaders um, limit their success because they refuse to let go of hands that no longer wanted them to hold them.
Those are, just the nuances that, leaders and those who are, visionaries and those who want to be innovative and make change really have to think about. And I appreciate you sharing that insight. And so also as you talk about, kind of stepping back and letting other people step up, realizing that, sometimes there's change is good and is necessary. What are some of the hopes for the future of the work you do?
One of my greatest goals is sustainability, right, of the work that's being done. Because what good is it having success while you're here and then you walk away and everything fails?
Hmm.
Or what good is it having people who are tied to you and they themselves aren't successful? I hope to see this type of work in black and brown hands and under the leadership of black and brown folks who are culturally competent in terms of those communities that are most under resourced and underrepresented to grow.
You wrote a book titled Let There Be Light, Creating a Life Worth Living. So I would love to hear, more about or some advice that you would have for those that are looking for, meaning and purpose in their life.
One will never have light without a measure of darkness.
Mm,
Don't shy away from darkness. Some of the best growth experiences can come out of some of the most challenging moments in our lives. No one welcomes the dark, but understand when it comes, if you're guided by the light, it only comes to serve you, to grow you, to strengthen you. And then the last thing is understand what love is when you talk about love. Love is not the thing we see in TV and movies. Love is about sacrificing. If the most expensive and most valuable things you have is what you have on your person, your jewelry, your clothing, the car you drive, the house you live in, then you're poor. The
mm.
most valuable thing you should possess must be something that is internal where others cannot touch. When we talk about really loving folks, we're talking about really being in a position, mind, body, and spirit to give up for a person, to give up for a cause, to give up for a group, to give up for your charity, to give up for your children, to give up for your partner, to give up for your community. That's what it's about. And you may not, again, be reciprocated. That those acts may not be reciprocated in your lifetime. Sometimes intestinal fortitude is required when that darkness comes, right? That light, that stuff is internal. Folks will see your shine, but they don't know your grind. It takes a lot to get to where you are.